yeah, yeah. Dr. Michael Greger, he's got a few things that he recommends if you're on a plant-based diet that you should try and have every day, and beetroot is one of them. Not essential, but you know, and he gives the scientific reason. Everything he does. Have you been onto his website?
No, I haven't. No, I must have a look. Yeah.
Yeah, you must. I'll send you the link. It's just, in fact, it's called. It's not called by his name. It's his website, but it's called Nutritional something another. But I'll have a look.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And see. I from my research, I regard him as probably the best on the planet. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because everything, and he shows you, the papers are there in front of him, that you know, the science, and he talks about the good and the bad. You know, this, and he talks about just how every industry will lie with their science evidence, okay, in order to back up. You know, it doesn't matter which industry it is, you know, whether it's the apple industry or the tobacco industry or the potato industry, or they leave out things, or they don't tell you things.
Yeah. Which is just a bit, just as bad as telling a lie, isn't it? Really, it
is the same as telling a lie. You know, for example, they might, let's just take vegetable A as, and the vegetable A industry do a science and a study with two different groups. One eating vegetable A for so many days, and the other not eating vegetable A, okay? But what they don't tell you is that the other group are being given refined foods and pizzas and things like that to eat. So they're going to come out, the vegetable A is going to come out a lot better than the other, okay? That type of thing.
We're just manufacturing an answer, isn't it? That's all it's doing. Yeah.
Yes, it's a marketing thing. That's all. It's nothing more than that. And then, of course, you get the proper, genuine scientific studies, okay? And the first thing he looks at is who is sponsoring that study.
Yeah.
Okay, because then he looks at the evidence and the outcome and how it was conducted. And then you get usually sort of a 6-minute video or 3-minute video every single day. Different aspects. You're doing this for a long time. So I usually listen to one video before I get out of bed in the morning, you know, just to get my knowledge around, because he also, like today, the video was about gluten, okay, and he was saying that you know, notwithstanding the fact that if you're gluten intolerant, well, then you mustn't eat gluten. Okay, but if you're not gluten intolerant and you don't eat gluten, that's bad for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And he tells you what, it's bad for you. Okay, you're going to start collecting all sorts of metals, you know, in your, like mercury and things like that.
Isn't that interesting? Because as you say, like you read the marketing blurbs, and it's like, oh, this is gluten free. The inference being it's good for everyone.
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely not. It's not, and I found out that this morning. Okay, and I couldn't understand when I was still in South Africa that, you know, I was high in certain metals, and you know, I blamed old water pipes and things, the drinking water, but never got to the bottom of it. Okay. But at that stage, I wouldn't touch anything that had gluten, so I wasn't eating wheat. Okay. And anything else that said gluten-free, a cereal or something. I'm not talking about something that by nature does not have gluten. because then they also, but things that where gluten has been taken out of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Where it does have gluten, and yeah, so that could be the reason. I don't know historically, but yeah, he said don't not eat wheat because of the gluten, because that's it. Yeah. Very interesting.
That is quite quite mischievous, isn't it?
It's but yeah. What do we say now? We've been saying it for years. The lies and lies. It's just, yeah. But in the meantime, people die, for reasons that they do not know why. Yeah.
So what else have you been up to?
Yeah, thanks for the birthday greeting yesterday.
That's all right. Yeah, nice and early.
Yeah. Yes. Appreciate it. Yeah, really. Yesterday.
So did you do anything special, or?
Yeah, I guess we did. Went out went to our favorite coffee shop and had a little something to eat and a cappuccino. And I have my cappuccino these days with the non-dairy milk, okay, be it almond or soya or whatever. And they virtually all the places now offer it. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is great. So yeah, we went there, and then one of the things that I enjoy most in life, and you would know that too, and that is just enjoy chatting.
Yeah.
That's it. And between you and Sue, you're both good listeners. Yeah. So yeah, we went out there, and then there were little bits of odds and ends type of shopping that we've been meaning to do for a long time. So we went and we found it in different things in different places, and that was quite nice to get that done. And we weren't in a rush or anything, and we particularly also looked for some junk food to bring home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what did you settle on?
We settled on cheesecake.
Oh, nice. Nice. Good choice.
Yeah. We settled for the baked one rather than the fridge one.
Yeah.
Because the fridge one's just too sweet. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's
yeah. So
every ingredient's loaded, isn't it? So.
Yes. Yeah, and then we went and bought 2 roses because the roses in my garden now are just so beautiful, and they're just so scented, and Sue gave me one to put on my desk.
Okay.
It's lovely. I've got 2 right outside my window. One outside the window are orange, and then behind the orange ones up my window are yellow. Okay. And it's a yellow creeper rose, and it's blended itself into the jasmine creeper. The jasmine creeper is white. And so it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it's all sorts of things flowering in the garden now. So nice. And those red bottle brush bushes, absolutely hanging heavily.
They do, don't they? When they flower up, they really OD, don't they?
Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely beautiful.
And that would attract the birds like crazy too, wouldn't they? Like the rainbow lorikeets and that, they love those.
Yes, they do. And yeah, and other honeysucking. The only parrot that eats it is the black parrot. It's like, but having said that, yesterday I saw a parrot, and they're coupling it right now, not parrots, but the other ones, the honeysuckle birds. And I thought, very unusual to find one of the other species of parrot in there, other than the black. But they seem to be there. Yeah, but lots of birds. When I look again out of this window, there's another tree behind the rows of, excuse me, and tall tree now. It was a baby tree when we arrived 4 years ago. Now it's tall. The parrots just love it. And that's also flowering, full flower now. Tiny, tiny little lengths of flowers, white flowers. Almost looks like snow on it. I don't know what it is. It's absolutely beautiful. We're just so fortunate to have all this nature all around us.
No, and it's so good that you notice it.
Yeah, you're right. But we really go out of our way to notice it, and talk to it, and greet it as well. Yeah. And 2 or 3 days ago, we got a Sue at the front door again. We had this once last year, and the front door was open, and she walked about a meter from the front door. I don't know what she was doing, and there was a stump-nosed lizard.
Okay,
yeah, about the length of my arm.
Wow.
Yeah, fat, and his legs are sitting out there like that, and ready to come in head first. Right at the edge of the front door. Don't know what we would have done if it came in, because it still looks a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
I know it's harmless. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, Joe, what's your news?
Not much to really talk about that I can think that comes to mind, but no, just been doing what I've been doing. So still doing my writing.
Yeah.
And
how's that progressing?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. It's been a journey of discovery, because what I'm finding is, in this first stage, it's just a matter of, as you say, just getting stuff down, just out of your head and down. And sometimes I'll write something and I'll think to myself, my goodness, where did that come from? You just look at it and
fantastic.
So it's very, very therapeutic and revealing.
Right. Well, that's great, man. That's super.
Which is an indicator to me that it's coming from the right place. So
quite right. Yeah. My daughters gave me a birthday present voucher, which was a sunset cruise on the Swan River.
Oh, nice.
And then, we've got the whole year, or 2 probably, to use it. So
does that involve a dinner, or is it just a cruise? Or
I've just got the link to redeem the voucher, so I haven't redeemed the voucher yet. So I actually don't know what it includes.
Yeah. Okay.
It just came in an email, so I read what the email was, and it only actually came today. It didn't. Well, it might have come yesterday, but I didn't notice it. And so tonight I'm going to redeem it and see what the details are.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a scenic river, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, we've done a cruise down to from Perth down to Fremantle.
How
long
did that take?
Oh, it's not very long. I can't recall. An hour maybe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. And we've also taken a train trip down there. Okay. And it's a really old station there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because the train track follows the highway, I think, doesn't it? It runs down sometimes through the centre of the highway, I think. Or
not that particular one that we took, but certainly, the other freeways have the railway down the middle. Okay. and then also the cycle path, on the outside of the thing. So it was really, yeah. Then we haven't been down there for a little while to Fremantle, not for a month or three perhaps, but every weekend there's a market, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Indoor market, big.
And that was where you saw that art festival, wasn't it? That was down at Fremantle, wasn't it?
No, that was in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in Chanjara, yeah, and or something like that. And but yeah, it's like just a whole lot of stalls, almost like an Indian market. We would say there's a whole lot of stalls crammed into this enormous old rambling building, and an old building definitely, and it's just everything that you can imagine you find there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and even inside we've got our favorite little coffee shop inside the environment there. And, yeah, so, I enjoy those sort of places like that. You can see all the handmade stuff and organic.
It's quite cosmopolitan. I know the last time I went down to Fremantle, which is some time ago now, there seemed to be like a fairly strong Italian influence there in some of the areas. I remember there was this one sort of like cafe, coffee shop, delicatessen type place, and they even sold great big bars of olive oil soap, like there's big green bars of olive oil soap. And,
yes.
So really strong sort of Italian influence there.
Yeah. A lot of the shops are, I would say, that I've been into. I haven't been into a lot because we've always just stayed in the market. But they've kept the ambience of the town, to be old, and they kept the building. That's particularly in the main streets and so on. And yeah, it's a good place to just ramble around.
Yeah, that's for sure. Quite historic, really, isn't it? Over there.
Very much so. I don't know a lot. I've still got to maybe get myself a book on the history of Australia, or particularly WA, just to get familiar. Probably will in time to come. Because it's that's where. Was that not? Is Fremantle not? I'm just guessing now. Was it one of the first places that was settled in Australia when the British came, or were the East Indian first?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure because I'm sort of familiar with the settlements on the East Coast.
Yeah.
But I'm really can't say when or how the settlements occurred. Like whether it was convict labour or not, or what the driver of it was. But but I'm a little bit curious about it, like you now. So
yeah. Because Australia is relatively, it's ignoring the indigenous people who have been here forever. Okay, it's a new country, really.
A couple of 100 years.
That's it. Yeah. South Africa was 1652 was the first Dutch East India Company set up something there.
Wow.
And I think you were after that.
1770, I think, was the original, like the first landing, I think. So or just discovery and landing thereafter.
Yeah. Our first settlement was they settled there and set up a farm for passing ships.
Wow. So with your birthday, it got me thinking too. With your birthday, what do you think about aging? Tell me what your thoughts are about aging.
Yeah. Okay. What I know about aging, first of all, is that the only thing that you can prevent from aging or deteriorating over the years, okay, like all the organs in your body and your skin and so on, is your brain. Your brain is the only organ that doesn't have to age, okay? And as long as you're making new connections in your brain, and that you are eating basically a plant-based diet, but certainly it does boil down to certain nutrients naturally, then your brain doesn't age. So, and yet in this day and age, because of the refined foods everybody eats, it's one of the first things that ages, okay? And you become forgetful and Alzheimer's sets in, or, you know, or your brain's not working, giving good messages through your nervous system. That's because your nerves are also getting in. So from that aspect, yeah, aging is something that allows you a finite time in this hell, okay, in this incarnation, at this time, in this final iron age that we are in. So, you know, give or take, you're going to be here for 70 or 80 years, and then you're going to move on. And so, I'm pleased in a way for aging. Imagine being here for 800 years. You know? Oh my God! Okay. I think enough said. Yeah.
The consumerists would be delighted.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
First thing they'd say is, think how much money you could borrow.
Yeah. And the black hats, how many more people can we kill off to reduce the population?
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, aging is you can stop it mentally, but you can't stop it physically. And the most important part of aging is today. Without a doubt, today. Because, you know, yesterday, so interesting. I'd love to know when we finally catch up with time travel and dimensions without time, if we, you know, if we can jump around to yesterday and ahead, then I guess aging will take on a different significance.
Well, that's a really important question, I guess, that you've just posed, because, you know, like, it could well be like, well, what are the conditions around that? You know, like, I know a lot of the stuff that I've read, and even like from a yogic perspective, and that they talk about time being like a continuous line, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that the past is always here, now is now, and the future is in the future, but it's all on the one line. So maybe one of the conditions, you know, the laws of nature or whatever of going back to yesterday or whenever is that, yeah, you can go back, but it can't be changed. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting. Can it be changed? Because you know, I'm as I told you last week, I'm reading one of the Star Trek novels or science fiction, and now everybody in this particular book at this time, they jump around, okay, big time. So every chapter has actually got to have a scientific science year label to it. So
time stamp on it,
yeah, stamp on it, so that you know now, because one chapter is talking about this group of people or this particular spacecraft, and then the next chapter is talking about another spacecraft in another time zone. Okay, that could be 10 years behind or something like that, and they talk about some really, let's say, a disastrous thing that happened. Okay. And we can guess some of those disastrous things from our history back 12,000 years of today. But things that are more galactic disasters, and they go back and they try and change it. Okay, and it usually lands up with one person's decision that, let's say, presses the button and this disaster or this catastrophe happens. So the idea is to try and stop this person from pressing the button. Okay. But then the question arises in the book is now, what are the consequences of stopping that disaster? You know, there are certain that are obvious, but the ones that are not obvious, because something's got to replace what you stopping happening that you want to stop happening. Okay. But now what's going to take its place? If you could. And I haven't read it. Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the conundrums of considering things is there's so much that might have happened as a result of something that you're not aware of. You know, so where does that fractal pattern, what happens to it, you know? So and so in that sense, you can never go back and change one thing, is that if you change anything, then potentially, because everything's interwoven, you know, everything changes, you know? So.
Yeah. But the other thought that comes to my mind with that now is time has nothing to do with aging.
No.
You know, and it's quite a profound thought. You know, you could just jump, 50 years ahead and see the Earth that has changed 50 years from now, or 100 years, or 1,000 years. But you, the person who's jumped that time, you haven't changed in that 1,000 years.
Well, don't they say though that, like, for example, people who do a lot of flying, for example, because of their proximity to the planet and, you know, and the speed of the travel and that sort of thing, is that their experience of the time is shorter. I think that's the finding, is that their experience of the time is shorter. The inference being is that they age quicker.
Okay. Okay. I haven't heard that one. Interesting.
Because I mean, like, you know, like that Einstein says, time is relative. So the relativity being, if you're walking on the surface of the planet, time is at a certain pace, but if you're 30,000 feet or 3 kilometers in the air, traveling at 800 or 900 kilometers an hour, time operates at a different relativity compared to walking on the planet.
Interesting thought, that. Okay. And what about those that are astronauts?
Well, that is the interesting thing, isn't it? You know, like, I mean, we sort of touched on it very briefly last week, is that what is the unit of measure? Because, I mean, we measure time here of revolutions around, you know, the planet, revolutions and revolutions around the sun. So if you're not part of that, then how do you measure it?
Yeah. And do you age at the same rate? Okay. Now, one of the things, you know, with that that I've read up about astronauts and people that, let's say, the people that have been working in the space station, okay, and is that when they come back to Earth, they have to go through a whole lot of exercise and physio and so on to climatize their bodies again. And even though they've got a makeshift type gravity that they can, but it's still nowhere, it's not gravity. And how that's going to expand in the future, I think we'll probably take into account the physical impact of gravity, the positive impact of gravity, because we're born and bred here before we become astronauts. And so we are so accustomed to that pull from our head through to our feet.
Well, our physiology has evolved
in
an environment with certain type of gravity, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think it'll be different for somebody who's born in the space station.
Could well be, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things they're talking about at the moment when they're doing these experimental Mars stations that they've got. China's got one and America's got one, where they're trying to simulate what's going to be the condition of Mars, because both countries are going to establish.
If they haven't already.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I'm very sure they have, but not in the third dimension.
Okay.
I've read. I can't really ever say whether somebody who spills the beans from a particular project or something, whether they're genuine or not genuine. But I've read up and I've listened to them talking, and they talk about black projects in America to Mars. Okay, and they don't travel through it with a craft. Okay, and they talk about I don't know, quite large numbers of people settled on Mars, but not in the third dimension. So, yeah, and I'd be interested to know how they've set up. But maybe in anything, it's only the third dimension that needs gravity. Okay.
Yeah, it could well be.
Yeah. Have you thought of that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So, wonder what it's like. Is it all mental in the other dimensions, so that you carry a mental vision of your body without your body?
It is hard to imagine.
Yeah.
It is, and it isn't. Because I think when you think about it from a, what we call as a spiritual perspective, that realm is beyond the physical, isn't it? I mean that.
Yeah.
And that's something that we just accept,
Yeah.
And part of that acceptance, suggests that your identity as such continues, that things like pain and suffering doesn't.
Yeah. Unless you use the word spiritual, which implies, let's just call it another dimension.
Yeah.
Maybe there is mental suffering.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt. We're pretty good at that.
Yeah. Because let's face it, if you in a dream state, when you're dreaming at night, that's a very, very real state. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In some cases, it has a greater level of reality to it than waking up.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. I tell you, yeah, absolutely. It's like you've just, gone to reality for a quick few hours. and yeah, you do experience, you can experience pain there, and all types of people, you know. But the bad seems to be different to the bad on earth. In my dream,
it does, doesn't it? You know, this, because part of that sense, and I mean, Alatra talk about it in their own terminology too, is how that shadow actually feeds off that sort of like fear and negativity and anger and all of those sorts of emotions.
Yeah,
that's what sustains it.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Talking about Alatra, I've really been meaning. Have you listened to Michalowicz? What's his name?
No, I haven't. I mean, there's been as usual, an avalanche of videos that they release, like sometimes several a day.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
Yeah, I've been meaning to find only him. I just want to listen to him, not anybody else.
Yeah, well, and that's an important thing, really, isn't it? Like all the other stuff. But I was wondering, though, particularly with all of the conflict and stuff that's been going on over there, is because I think Alatra itself was pretty much based in Kyiv.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering how they're traveling from an organisational perspective. I mean,
well, I did talk to Ilana, and
oh yeah, how is she doing?
Yeah,
but she's in Russia though, isn't she?
She's in Russia, yeah.
Yeah.
But she has obviously strong contact with the people in the Ukraine. And she said that he, Michalowicz, was actually smuggled out of the Ukraine, and he's in Europe somewhere.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because there was rumor, one tends to automatically want to believe it when it comes out of the sources of Alatra.
Yeah.
That he was out to be assassinated.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So whether they knew it because of the aliens around them, I don't know, or whether from some other source.
Well, he seems to be quite an awake being himself, so he probably
was aware of it. Yeah. So don't know where he is at the moment, but that's why I'm particularly keen to hear, if there's something, recent that he has set up, maybe a seminar or a talk, just a talk.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just looking on Telegram, I think it was. Yeah, the Telegram one.
Yeah.
And like some of the recent stuff that they've released with his name on it.
Oh, have they?
Okay. Yeah, so there's one there, like the last one that was released, which was 31st of October.
Of him talking?
Yeah, of him talking.
Oh, please, can you send me the link?
Yeah,
I'm on Telegram, so you can send it to me.
So the heading on it is Spiritual Path of a Woman and a Man.
Okay.
Then then the one before that was the 28th of October, which the heading on that one is Climate. I'm sure that word is CERBERUS. So it's obviously about the climate.
I would guess so.
Then the one before that, with his name on it, is about family relationships. So yeah, no, so there's still quite a bit there.
Okay, great.
So yeah, but I haven't sat down and listened to them because quite often.
Before you forget, why don't you just do it now? Send me a link.
Yeah, sure.
because you're aging and you might forget.
Am I? Okay.
Pulling your leg.
I'll send you a couple.
Okay, I can see it's coming through on my phone, on my desk. Yeah. No, one's good enough. I'll pick up again. I'll pick up the thread again.
Yeah.
And because I got tired of so many coming through, and
well, I've just sent three
okay.
to you. So yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for doing that.
That's all right. But one of the things that sort of struck me about the whole idea of aging, and it goes to this heart of, about youth versus old, is there seems to be an underlying assumption that youth is the utopia.
Okay.
And I guess that in one sense that's probably because when most people are probably physically healthy. But I sort of think about my own sort of life journey, and I think from a wisdom and experience and those sorts of contexts, it's such a rich and rewarding time.
Yeah.
Sure, there are physical limitations compared to being young that slow you down in a physical sense, but having access to the benefit of experience and the wisdom that comes from those experiences, I mean, it's invaluable. I look at some of the young blokes that I work with. Like when I say young, I'm talking like 22, 23 years of age.
Yeah.
And they strut around like cock sparrows, thinking that they know everything there is to know, and their experience is the sum of human knowledge and all that sort of stuff. But
right.
I was just thinking to myself, like the ignorance and associated arrogance of that youthfulness,
right,
is so blind.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But the energy associated with it, is quite high pitched. But it's not about one being right or wrong or better or worse. It's just a matter of what is at those different stages of our life. So and I would hope, with the benefit of wisdom and experience, being awake enough not to be critical of a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old, but just to be aware, aware and awake to it, So.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of the fact that, and I was thinking of it now when you were talking, that, we remember, let's say, our entire previous, our current life, but going back to when we were young. And we know that we experienced certain emotions during that time. But when you can't re-experience that emotion by remembering it.
No, you can't. And when you really, well, for me anyway, when I really contemplate it, I can't even be completely sure about whether what I'm remembering actually occurred anyway. So
yeah, it's interesting. I'm just looking for something that fits the topic that we're doing. It came from Bruce Lipton, and I think I've saved it on my Facebook. I'm not sure where I'll have to go to find. I'm not. Here it is. Okay. I think it's his latest newsletter or something. I'm not sure, but it's an image. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a very attractive. In fact, I can share it with you, can't I? Let me just. What are we on? We're on Skype. Eh?
Yeah.
Where do we go to share on Skype?
I think it's
share screen. Okay. Yeah, bottom
right.
right. And okay. Let's just say we want to share. Okay. Okay. Tell me if it comes up. Because it says I'm sharing now, but maybe I clicked on what I wanted to share. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I got to open it again. Here we go.
Yeah, now I can see it. Yep.
Okay.
Life has everything in it, but you only see what your perception allows you to see. Is that the one? Yeah.
That's the one. I mean, first of all, that statement, okay? Life has everything in it. Everything, okay, is relative, but you only see what your perception allows you to see. I mean, we could have a long chat on that.
Alone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because everything else is around us, but we can't see it. And what we do see, we have different perceptions of.
Well, that's right. You can have people standing shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
And describe completely different things that they thought that they just saw. Yeah.
But look at the image too. It's so interesting. Anyway, so be it. Stop sharing. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So the feeling or the emotion can only be felt now. You can't think back and feel it again.
No.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because the implication of what you've just said is that perhaps you can't actually, like, you can only experience it once.
Yeah. That's it. You can only experience it once, and that's only at this moment.
Yeah.
You can talk about it in 5 minutes' time. Okay.
And you can imagine what you think it was like.
Yeah.
But the actual experience is only something that you can experience at that time. Yeah.
At that moment. At that moment. Yeah. And you can perhaps try and have similar experiences, like, you can pick up a lovely scented rose and a lovely sensation. And then you come back again and you smell it again, same scent, everything, but it's a different sensation. It's a different experience. It's not the same as the other one. So.
That's really fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
So it really does underscore the incredible importance of the now. That's for sure.
Yes, and really taking it in. And if you have to make decisions, make those decisions now. Yeah. Yeah. Don't wait to remember them. And try.
No, because because we know that our memories are very unreliable.
Yeah, and what are we actually remembering? Yeah.
So this is a good point. What are we actually remembering, if anything?
Yeah, I mean,
or are we just manufacturing something?
Yeah. I mean, we remember last year's birthday, and we remember where we used to live, and we can sort of picture and yeah. Can you remember your marriage?
What, the wedding day?
How many years were you married?
Oh God, I don't know. Maybe too many.
What happened to your wife, by the way? I've never asked you.
Oh, she still lives
in town.
Yeah, sort of the other side of town. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We talk from time to time. So.
Okay. And does that bring back memories when you talk or you think about it?
Particularly around the children, it does. Yeah. Because that's usually the basis of the conversation, is about something that's happening in the lives of one of the kids. So
yeah. Yeah, the reason I asked is not only out of curiosity, because I never asked you before, but also when I think back on my previous 2 marriages, during those times there were lots of ups and downs and disagreements and emotions and things, but I can't recall them, and I think I can't even in any way sort of, let's talk about at the end when perhaps there was a hectic disagreement with an attorney present or something like that, and hell of a stressful, but I can't sense any of it now. Absolutely none of it.
On that forum, the gratefulness forum, they had a question the other day. I can't remember the exact sort of wording of it, but it was along the lines of what influence have past relationships had on your life or something like that. And my response on that day was, the past is best left in the past, because today is for the people who are here now. So, and in many respects, that, like in the context of the conversation we're having, like, that's sort of true, isn't it? Like,
yeah, but I don't think you've got the option to leave it in the past. It's left itself in the past.
Oh well, that's right. It's not as if it's will I or won't I?
Yes,
the past is the past, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and you can't, as we've discussed, you can't relive that emotion. What you can hold in you is some sort of negativity of hatred, or
you can, or it can be just a sweet fragrance of memory in one sense as well. So it doesn't have to be like a strong emotion like hate, but maybe those are the ones which imprint themselves stronger, perhaps,
into your consciousness. Yeah. No, but I'm saying that you don't necessarily carry them with you. I'm thinking of something that it's part of today for you. Okay, well, I
mean, it could possibly just be as simple as you're doing something, and there might be a fragrance of a flower or something that brings a memory in. Like I'm like that sometimes. Like, not so much these days, but I remember at one place that I used to work years ago, I used to particularly in the evening drive past this big commercial bakery, and just the smell of
yes,
just the smell of bread,
fresh
baking,
white bread,
baking, always used to take me straight back to my childhood. Just that fragrance would be like straight back to my childhood. Like.
Likewise. There used to be this little bakery in Port Alfred. Okay, and it used to start up sort of early hours of the morning, 4 o'clock or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And we would be there, not only to take in the fragrance, but to buy that hot bread and go sit next to the river and eat it.
You know, and as I said, to this day, you know, if I smell bread baking, it's just like, oh, in an instant, just takes me back, you know.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
And interesting, when I say takes me back, not so much to a specific event or something, but just, it's just like, oh, you know, I remember that, you know, like I remember that fragrance, you know.
Yes,
when I was a child, and I can't sort of even tell you what the circumstances as a child actually was, but it just takes me back, you know. You know, when I first smelled it.
Yes. Very interesting creatures.
We certainly are. Interesting creatures who are constantly being invited to, well, a bit like that saying, isn't it? You know, everything's happening. It's just sometimes you're just not aware of it, or not all the time, really, not aware of everything that's happening. You know.
Yeah.
One of those little Zen tales I remember reading not too long ago. You know, like there's this student sort of thing, you know, and he went into the Zendo and to go and see, you know, his master. And his master just sort of asked him some questions like, oh, so where did you leave your shoes? Oh, at the front door. Oh, okay. And were they pointing towards the door or pointing outside the door? Oh, pointing towards the door. Oh, okay. And like, what was beside your shoes? Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, well then we've got work to do then. Yeah, it's interesting. I had a friend yesterday contact me for my birthday. She lives in January, a friend of my wife and I. And she was saying that last 2 years has been so horrific for her. Okay, besides having fallen and hurt herself, which she's now recovered from. It's like, you know, so many friends and family members have died in the last 2 years around her. And it was so interesting because I thought, and I can't remember anybody in my close proximity, family or friends, that have died. Okay.
And I thought, now that is interesting. She sees the last few years as like the worst in her life, and the saddest in her life. And I see them as the happiest in my life. So, and it was the same years. It comes back to that Bruce Lipton saying. And you attract certain things and you repel certain things, and you are just in a certain consciousness, I guess. I don't know. It comes and goes.
And I think it does come back in many respects to, you know, in an overall simplistic way, is to the questions that we pose to ourselves, isn't it? You know, like. You know.
What were you thinking of?
Well, I mean, I was just sort of thinking, I mean, I don't know what question that friend of yours posed to herself in maybe in a subconscious level, you know, but she perceives the last couple of years as just being loss, you know, losing things, you know. Whereas, you know, the question perhaps that whether that's the right language or not, I'm not sure, but the question perhaps that you've posed yourself in the last couple of years is one of gain, you know, not one of loss at all. You know?
Yeah. That also could lead itself to an interesting discussion. that maybe we should have in the future is how does that happen? Okay, and I think we both know how it happens. Okay, but we won't go there today. Okay.
Let's do that. Let's do that maybe next week.
Yeah.
It's a good topic actually.
Yeah. Okay, you remember to bring it up.
Okay.
Okay, he says.
Yeah,
Okay.
Without a question here, I'll just put a note here in the chat for you so you don't forget. So what label would you like me to put on it so that it's meaningful for you?
How you influence your future. Eh?
Okay.
Here we are.
There you go. Done.
There it comes up on the where we put it on Skype. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It suddenly flashed up on my screen and then it disappeared again. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, sir. I
Very
think
good.
it's time to love and leave. Eh?
Okay. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks very much for popping in today.
No, absolutely. It was delightful.
As always.
Okay.
Cheers, man. Bye.